How we doing, everybody? Mr. D here, and in this video, it should be pretty quick. This is just going to be a quick little recap of things that we've already discussed in previous videos, just to get kind of all of these lessons kind of tied together into one spot. There will be several points where you might want to pause the video, so that way you can keep track of certain responses that might be on worksheets that you have hard copies of, and you will be kind of more than welcome to pause at any point you see fit. So let's get into a quick warm-up here. We want to graph the following function. Here I've got 1/3 to the power of x plus 2 minus 3. So a few things that I'm noticing. First, the fact that it's a 1/3 tells me it's going to be a decay graph, because that is smaller than 1. I see a plus 2 up in the exponent, so I'm going to go to the left 2 units. And then I'm also seeing this minus 3 at the end, so it's going to be going down 3 units. So if I kind of visualize what the graph might look like, right? I know the graph normally has a y-intercept at 1 on the y-axis. Well, that y-intercept will have gone down 3 and left 2. So I'm expecting the y-intercept to be kind of down there in quadrant 3, and the asymptote is going to be right underneath that as well. So let's see what we've got. First and foremost, it is decay. Hey, we talked about that. It goes left 2, down 3. Hey, we mentioned that. The asymptote is going to be y equals -3, and we've already discussed whatever that value is at the end, that is going to be your asymptote. Domain and range come next. Domain is the easiest, right? Every single time, it's always going to be all real numbers. And then the range is always going to plagiarize your asymptote value. Since this was a growth and it kind of takes place above the asymptote, it's going to be -3 to infinity. If this was flipped upside down and our reference point was kind of underneath the asymptote, so this is just kind of a made-up example. If it was something like that, then we'd have -infinity to -3. So let's take a look at our graph. Well, we can see that our reference point here, you can kind of see it in blue there. Our reference point, which is normally our y-intercept, is at 1, but we went left 2, down 3, and that's where it ends up. Our asymptote, which is normally the x-axis, got shifted the same. So it also got shifted left 2. Well, if it moves left or right, you're really not going to notice. It's not till we move it up or down that it becomes apparent. So it got shifted left 2, down 3. In this unit, your asymptote will always be exactly 1 grid space away from that reference point right there. Again, that's not always true, but it is for this unit in this course. All right, next up, some word problems that we might see. An investment of $75,000, hey, that's a starting value, increases, so we have growth, at a rate of 10.5% per year. So I have a rate of increase of 0.105. What is the value of the investment after 15 years? Round to the nearest cent. And you know what, that rounding makes sense, right? Makes sense. The rounding is intuitive because we're talking about money. So we've got our starting value. We have our growth rate, which allows us to get our growth factor by doing 1 plus 0.105. And then if we plug in 15 for t after 15 years, we'd wind up with $335,000. Holy smokes. Side note, if you can find some investment that is guaranteed to increase at that rate, I would suggest throwing a whole heck of a lot of money in there. Throw your entire life savings if you can find something that is guaranteed to increase like that. All right, a new truck purchased in 2009 for $39,000. It depreciates, so it's losing value here. So if it's losing value, we have to do 1 minus 12%, which is 0.12, and that's going to give me 0.88. So essentially, year after year, this truck retains 88% of its previous value. Okay. We have a starting value. We have a decay factor. and it's asking what will the value of the car be in 2016, round to the nearest cent. So really we have to figure out, well, how much time has passed, right? If we started in 2009 and we want to know that value in 2016, how many years have gone by? How many years is that? Whoop. Hit the wrong button there, folks. Hold on. Bear with me. There we go. So our time value is going to be 7, right? 7 years from 2009 to 2016. Our starting value is 39 grand. We have our decay factor. Remember, it's less than 1 now. So every year it only retains 88% of its original value. All right, so now let's get into the worksheet. So again, this worksheet was posted online for you, as well as this answer key. So if you want to pause the video here to take a look at some of the answers, by all means, go for it. One that I do want to kind of make mention of is number 11 here. And just as a reminder, anytime you have logs within logs, you always work from the inside out. So this 3 came about by solving 4 to what power is 64. So that's where that 3 value came from. All right, I'm going to scroll down now to the bottom. Basic graphs, again, if you need more practice on these, check out some of those previous problems. You'll notice as well, every single one of these problems here could have been done without a calculator. And in fact, I would argue a calculator would actually slow you down or confuse you. All right, on to the application problems. For these parts, for these first 3, you have to write the generic function and then plug in whatever time value they give you in order to get the final answer. So we're plugging in 10 for t on this first one, 18 for t, 4 for t over here. Again, feel free to pause if you need. Same thing down here at the bottom. These problems, the setup does not warrant a calculator, but finding the final answer certainly does. Unless you're a math whiz and can do 35 times 0.875 to the third power in your head. All right, and then the last part here, I do want to take a second to discuss number 7. So number 7, it's a similar problem that we've seen, right? What's your starting value? Are you growing or decaying? What's the rate? Blah, 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 blah. The difference, though, here is that our starting value is the first game, and it's asking after the 15th game. So a big mistake people will do is they'll put in 15 for the time value. But at time of 0, that represents the first game. So we're kind of like offset in our counting by 1. So for number 7, you're actually going to want to use 14 as your t value, because the t value starts counting at 0, but 0 represents the first game. So t equals 1 is the second game, t equals 2 is the third game. So it's basically saying how many games have passed since that first game. Number 8 is a problem where they don't necessarily give us a growth rate or a growth factor. We need to figure it out. Okay? So what they do tell us is a year and how many bears there are. And then they give us a second year and a second population, and they tell us that it's an increased, which means I should expect a growth factor. So what we can do is we can use our formula here, right? We can say that after a certain number of years, based on a starting value and a growth factor, the amount after a certain number of years, using a starting value and a growth factor, what would we have? So our starting value, we could say the 2008 value of 1570. We could say that 2 years later, right, in 2010, we had 1884. And then this value here is the time between 2010 and 2008, which is 2 years. So that's where these values are coming from, right? We have 1884, which is the ending amount. We have 1570, which was the starting amount. And we have 2, which is the time that has elapsed. Well, we can solve this equation. We divide the 1570 to the other side. And then to get rid of a squared, we use the square root. So my b value is 1.095, which means there's a 9.5% growth rate. So now to write the function, We still know our starting value, 1570. We've now figured out that b value, and we can generalize it with a generic time. So from here, we can predict the bear population after any number of years. So in this case, they're saying after 10 years, to be in 2018, how many bears would they be? So to recap, we had no idea what the b value was, but we knew the starting value, we knew the ending value, and we knew how much time had passed. There are 4 variables to plug in for. You need to have at least 3 of them. Okay, so we knew the starting value, the time, and the ending value, and that's what we plugged in. We then use that to solve for the b value, and as soon as we know the b value, we can write our equation. All right, and lastly, number 9 here. It says each day, 10% of a certain drug dissipates from the system. We want to classify this function. So if we're losing a drug concentration, that means we're decaying in value. And write a model write a function that models this situation. And the biggest question I've gotten in years past is, well, what the heck is the starting value? What is the starting value? Well, you could argue that 1 would be the starting value, and that 1 represents 100% of that drug concentration or that medication. Or you could say that you have 100% of that concentration. The only difference here is when you get to the next part, when you're plugging in t values and solving, is do you want your percentage to be written as a decimal? Right? If I used 1, it would give me 38.7, but if I used 100, it would automatically adjust it to 38.7. So that's really the only difference there, if you wanted to use a starting value of 1 versus 100. Now, part D is saying a second dose should not be taken if more than 50% of the original amount is in the system. When should the label say it is safe to redose? Use the graph of the function to answer this question. So this is when your graphing calculator is certainly going to come into play. But we're gonna kind of look at a graph of this, right? And we've got, you can either look at the function as 100 times 0.9 to the t, or you could just say 0.9 to the t. And we're going to figure out when is that going to equal, you could either say 50% or you could say 0.5 if you're going decimals. So graphically, we're trying to figure out what t value is going to make that happen. So you'd plug that into your y equals menu, and instead of t, you would use x instead. You're going to get a graph that's going to be some sort of a decay, and we need to figure out after how many years, so at what t value does that thing drop below 50. That would happen on the 7th day. You could also use your table, right? After you plug in the functions, on your y value, you should see like 0.9, 0.81, yada, 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 yada. You would look for the first time that it drops below 0.5. All right, that is it for this video. You know the drill, folks. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. And as always, good luck, have fun, be safe, roll tide.